Tyke Smith is the only player ruled out for the Buccaneers this weekend. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this live preview episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as editor-in-chief of the 813.tv, here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Keys to victory and predictions coming up in a little bit, but let's start with the injury news as far as who is in and who is out. So on the injury report, Tyke Smith is listed as doubtful, while Tristan Wirfs, Zyon McCollum, Jamel Dean, Mike Evans, Greg Gaines, Troy Hill are all listed as questionable. Zyon McCollum did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, but was a full participant on Friday. That's a great sign for the weekend. Tristan was limited all week. Jamel Dean was a full participant all week. Evans was back to limited on Friday after being a full participant on Thursday. With all of that said, Todd Bowles spoke with the media after practice and said Tyke Smith is the only player ruled out for the game against the Giants, pointing to the fact that he re-aggravated his knee injury on Wednesday. This is a little bit of a blow for the Bucs, though not as big of a blow as it would be if Zyon didn't play. It would be great for the Bucs to finally have all their starting corners back out on the field. But Zyon being a full participant on Friday, running at full speed, tells me that he's going to be good to go against Malik Neighbors this weekend. As far as Wirfs is concerned, Bowles said, quote, "We want to be smart and make sure he's okay for the rest of the way. He's getting a little better day by day. We'll see. It's going to go right up until Sunday for him. It'll certainly be tough having Justin Skule go up against Kayvon Thibodeaux and Brian Burns if Tristan cannot play, but the Bucs should still be able to beat the Giants without Tristan Wirfs. Skule actually played pretty decently when he went in against the Niners 2 weeks ago when Tristan Wirfs suffered that injury. And I have to agree with Bowles here. It's far more important that they have Wirfs for the long term rather than just this weekend. If he needs to sit another week, this is probably one of the better games to have him do that. As far as new cornerback Troy Hill, Bowles is confident in him to get snaps this week, saying that he can be both an outside corner and a slot corner, so there's really no specific role that he is set to play. He's just going to be available for wherever they need him. With the addition of Mike Edwards, I would venture to guess that Zyon is going to get the nod at slot corner with Tyke out, but that Hill is going to see some snaps throughout the game, both outside and inside. Then, of course, there's Mike Evans, who is ready to roll. Bowles said as long as he's healthy, he's going to be out there. There won't be any restrictions or a pitch count for him. Evans also spoke with the media and told them that it was really tough to see his teammates battling in these tough, close games and not be able to help them over the course of the last few weeks, but that he's excited to be back on the field this Sunday. I personally still maintain that the Bucs are beating the Falcons, they're beating the Chiefs, and they're possibly beating the Niners if Mike Evans is on the field. I mean, go back to the end of that Chiefs game. You got Mike Evans up against those Chiefs corners. Yeah, they would have gone for two at the end, thrown a jump ball to him in the corner of the end zone, and won that game. But Mike was also asked about his 1,000-yard streak and extending it, and he said that it's going to be tough and that he's obviously thinking about it, but he's also thinking about winning and that essentially if they're winning games, then other things are going to inevitably happen. And he's 100% right. If the Bucs are winning games, that's because they're succeeding on offense. They're succeeding on defense. That means Mike is getting the ball, and those yards will come as a result. It's going to be tough, real tough for him to reach that plateau, and it's going to be close. But if anybody can do it, it's certainly going to be Mike. And I know I've mentioned it before, but as a refresher for those that didn't hear it or don't remember, Evans needs 95 yards per game the rest of the season to hit 1,000. In his career, he has averaged 109.2 against the Giants. In fact, the Giants are the only team that the Bucs face the rest of the season where Evans has averaged 95 yards or more throughout his career. Now, outside of the Saints and the Panthers, it's a small sample size. 6 games against the Giants, 5 against the Cowboys, 2 against the Raiders, 2 against the Chargers, but all of those teams are short of the 95-yard mark except for the Giants, and the closest is the Chargers at 80 yards. As far as the Giants, they don't have any players ruled out on the injury report. Receivers Malik Neighbors and Bryce Ford Wheaton, as well as linebackers Mitch McFadden, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Darius Musso are all questionable. All other players on their injury list have no designation and will be good to go. One player that won't be there is Daniel Jones, who was released by the Giants on Friday. And honestly, that's probably a good idea. Wipe the slate clean, go your separate ways. As soon as Tommy DeVito was announced as the starter, we all knew that Daniel Jones' time with New York was over. So you don't want that distraction kind of hanging over your head. If DeVito struggles and then you're having the New York media ask repeatedly if Daboll thought about putting Jones back into a game or thinking about switching back to him as the starter, why isn't he the starter if the team is struggling, so on and so forth. So it's probably best for both sides, make the split, go their separate ways. And I've seen it a lot on social media, and I have to agree. The Dallas Cowboys have the opportunity to do one of the funniest things of all time, and that's get Daniel Jones on their team and start him against the Giants next week on Thanksgiving Day. I would find that to be completely hilarious as someone who has no skin in the game, hates the Cowboys, and would just laugh at the sheer car wreck that would ensue having him go up against Tommy DeVito. I'm going to jump into the chat real quick. We got George in the chat. He says, "Hey, James, how are you doing?" I'm great, George. I appreciate you asking. I'm a little tired. But that's life. I'm certainly doing better than my son is, who is currently laying in bed recovering from that ACL surgery that he had on Wednesday. Doing good, though. Everything went smooth. Everything went great. Just trying to get through these first couple of days where the pain is going to be the worst, and he should be good to go. We got Richard in the chat saying, "Does Mike become the slot?" No, there will be opportunities where he lines up in the slot, but no more so than he already did. There are times that they will put Mike in the middle and line him up to try to create a mismatch or do some certain things. But yeah, that role is not going to increase for him at all. You're still going to have Sterling Shepard there. You're going to line up Jalen McMillan there on occasion. You're going to line up Trey Palmer there on occasion. So Mike is going to continue to do what Mike always does. Might have 10 or 15% of his snaps come as an inside wide receiver, in that slot position. But other than that, nothing is going to change for Mike Evans. We got Bry in the chat says, "If Mike or Otten end up in the slot, we have big problems." I don't know if I'd go quite that far. But yeah, you want Mike to just go out there and be Mike. So don't adjust anything. Don't change anything. Let him play his role. And his role is to go out there and dominate the New York Giants. Taking a look at the biggest key for each side of the ball. That is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. So many of us put all of our focus and energy into making sure that we're there to provide for other people and always put ourselves on the back burner, and that can lead to problems building up from being left there too long. That's why it's so important to treat your mental health with the same care and attention you give to everyone else in your life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to fit around your busy schedule so that you don't have to leave yourself on the back burner anymore. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. You all know how much I love going to live events, concerts, sporting events. I'm constantly talking on the show about a concert or a game I'm getting ready to go see. In the first place I'm checking out when I look for tickets is Game Time. I've already used Game Time to pick up a nice little holiday surprise or two for some family members to open up on Christmas. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Then flip on that all-in pricing toggle switch like I do so that I know exactly what I'm going to spend up front and there are no surprises when I get to checkout. If you're interested in going to see the next Buccaneers home game, you can get tickets to see them take on the Raiders starting as low as $76. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it's twice a day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Talking about keys to the game, and my offensive key in this one is give Bucky the ball. This needs to be a theme moving forward. I love Rashad. You all know that. But Bucky has been the more effective runner this season. He's got nearly 200 more yards on just 16 more carries and has averaged almost 1.5 yards per carry more than Rachaad White. But he's only carrying the ball 9.6 times per game. That's not enough. The best defense for the Bucs is a good offense, which they have, but they need to really start dragging out these scoring drives, 10, 12, 15 play scoring drives to keep opposing offenses on the sideline. And no, they aren't going up against any offensive juggernauts the rest of the season, but you start getting into the habit of these long sustained scoring drives now. Then when you get into the playoffs and you do face some top level offenses, then you can just continue to do what you've been doing for the last 2 months that allowed you to get into the postseason to begin with. Control the clock, win time of possession while putting points on the board. Well, how do you do that? On the back of an effective run game that keeps your suspect defense on the sideline for as long as possible while wearing out the other team's defense by the time the fourth quarter rolls around. I mean, we've seen it happen to the Bucs in some of these close games. They got killed in time of possession against the Chiefs and the Niners, and the defense actually held up pretty well until the very end of the game when they were gassed and could not make a stop. It happened against the Falcons as well. That's what the Bucs recipe needs to be against these better offenses, and you have to get into that habit and that rhythm right now and sustain it over the course of the next 7 games. Rashad is the better pass blocker. He's the better pass catcher, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Rachaad White as a player, but there's no question. You can look at the stats, you can watch the games, you can give it the old eyeball test, but Bucky is the more effective runner right now. Having said that, It was after the bye and down the stretch last season where Rashad really got going. So maybe the same thing happens again this year, but I want to see 25 to 30 rushing attempts per game from this offense the rest of the way, and at least 50% of those carries, maybe more, need to go to Bucky Irving. He's a dynamic runner, makes defenders miss regularly. And I know I keep saying it, I'm bound to be right eventually, but he is on the cusp of breaking one off. He's been close a few times, and before all is said and done, he is going to turn what should be a 3 or 4 yard gain into a 40 or 50 yard touchdown run. Give the ball to Bucky in this one, establish the run game, wear down the defense, and then rinse and repeat the rest of the season. Defensively, it's all about beating the ever-loving snot out of Tommy DeVito. I like the guy. I have nothing against him. I thought he was a fun story last year. I wish him the best of luck starting in week 13. But this defense needs to look completely different, look like a completely different team the rest of the way. And they can start by getting a wildly inconsistent pass rush on track this week. It all starts with the guys up front. Vita and Kancey, they've been fine. They have been really the only sack production that we've seen over the course of the last few weeks. It's Logan Hall, who started off great and has fizzled out. It's Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who is all over the place in terms of whether or not you even notice him on the field. Chris Braswell and Yaya Diaby, those guys need to get it together and start getting the quarterback on the ground. Start making those splash plays. This close but no cigar stuff, it doesn't cut it anymore. They have to be able to make plays, but it's those guys that have to jumpstart this thing. If your natural pass rush is getting home, and it should, against a quarterback that was sacked over 4 times in appearance last season and against an offensive line that was allowing 3 sacks per game this season, then that's what is going to set up the defense for success. Getting DeVito on the ground, getting pressure in his face, forcing bad passes, putting the Giants, offense behind the sticks is going to open up Bowles' playbook on those passing downs. If the guys up front aren't getting home, like we've seen so many times this season, DeVito is going to get too comfortable. He's going to start making plays. It's going to allow time for Malik Neighbors to do what he's been doing this season, getting open and making big-time catches. If this defense is getting into the backfield and disrupting things, that's when Bowles can start to send Antoine or Zyon on those blitzes. He can send Levante. He can send Mike Edwards. He could really start to dial it up all the way to 11, making DeVito absolutely miserable in the pocket. The more you do that, the more DeVito gets those happy feet and makes bad decisions. That's when Antoine, Edwards, Zyon, Dean, those guys in the secondary can make plays and create turnovers. This is a team that the Bucs should have no problem overpowering with their pass rush, but Bowles has to get them started early in this one, and it's on your natural pass rushers. It's on Vita, Kancey, Hall, Diaby, Tryon-Shoyinka, Braswell. It's on those guys to get this thing started so that Todd Bowles can really start to mess with DeVito's head as the game progresses. Going to jump into the chat again real quick. Oh, goodness, my eyes just went completely out on me. We got Narav. Yeah, I did see Lakita talking about, is Sean Tucker going to get more involved? Todd talked about it again. Liam talked about it again. They said they reviewed the tape and, they have to get him more involved in the offense. They've said that before. I'm taking those comments with the grainiest grain of salt of all time. Until I see it happen, I'm not going to believe that it's going to happen. You all know that I have been pounding the table for Sean Tucker to get more involved, but I've waved the white flag. I have waved it. I've given up on thinking that Sean Tucker is actually going to get involved in the offense until I see it with my own 2 eyes. Narav said, yeah, Tucker needs 2 drives minimum. I agree wholeheartedly. I'd like to see him in the 10 zone. I'd like to see him in those goal-to-go situations. I'd like to see the Bucs go for it on 4th and 1, from their own 45 with Sean Tucker, pounding ahead and getting that yard that they need. But until I see it, I'm not going to believe that it's actually going to happen. We got Scotty J says, legit question, where are all the Mayfield haters from a year and a half ago? I'm being serious. Has he changed your mind? Trust me, Scotty J, they're still out there. They're still out there. You're going to have people that, Baker he's polarizing and he's divisive the same way Jameis Winston was. There are people that absolutely love him. There are people that are never going to like him. There are people that just want him to succeed because they want the team to succeed and they want what's best for the Buccaneers as a whole. You're going to have the contingent of Florida Gator fans, that are also Buccaneers fans that are angry that Kyle Trask never got an opportunity. They have gotten a lot more quiet, and I think that's because they've been shut down, time and time again. I know there were some in the chat, all last season that I eventually just stopped acknowledging, and they kind of started to go away. I know Rick Stroud on Twitter has to deal with Florida fans complaining and whining about Kyle Trask. That anti-Baker rhetoric started to heat up a little bit when he went on his run of turning the ball over. I think it was a 4-game stretch or a 5-game stretch where he had at least one interception. So it started to heat up a little bit again then. But, Baker's having a phenomenal season. So if people are hating on him now, they're doing it just because they don't like him. But he's playing so well that they don't really have a leg to stand on. So I think they've kind of quieted down. But ultimately, they're always going to be around. Just like the Jameis. There were people that still hated Tom Brady, even when he won a Super Bowl for the Buccaneers, because they just don't like him. It's going to happen with every team, every fan base. There are going to be certain players that fans just flat out don't like for whatever reason. It certainly happens. Let's see. We got David in the chat. He says, made it. Well, welcome, David. Glad that you're here. We have predictions coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. The season's changing. I'm already dreaming of a warm weather getaway. I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for ways to earn more to book my next flight or hotel stay. Here's a life hack for you. Built lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should get you more than just a roof over your head. Let me explain. There is no cost to join Built, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and on your everyday spending. Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones that you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem your Built points toward. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnfl. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl to start earning points on your rent payments today. Whether you're dodging tackles on the field or cheering from your couch, The Joint Chiropractic has your back, literally. As an official chiropractor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're here to make sure you're always in the game, no matter your role. If you're feeling the pain after a long week or just looking to stay active, they offer personalized care to help you bounce back stronger. 90% of elite athletes, including NFL pros, rely on chiropractic care to stay at the top of their game and perform their best. At The Joint, you don't need an appointment. Just walk in and get the care you need same day. No scheduling hassles. Just walk in whenever it's convenient for you. Here's the real kicker. As a Bucs fan, you can get your first visit for just $19. Head over to Buccaneers.com. Check out the contests and promotions section under the fans tab, and then download the offer. It's a great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location. Red Wrapping things up here on a live Friday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast, and it is prediction time. Start dropping your player predictions, bowl predictions, score predictions in the chat. Can't wait to go through some of those. Real quick, though, Bry in the chat says, yeah, but if Winston's time in Tampa showed us anything, it's his inconsistency. One game you get Tom Brady, the next you get Brady Quinn. I agree wholeheartedly. Jameis, it's something that we saw in Tampa. Ross and I talked about it when he was in New Orleans. Browns fans and I talk about it all the time. There are a lot of Browns fans in my area that Jameis will single-handedly win you some games. He will you to a victory. But there are times that he will single-handedly give the game away. And he tried to do that Thursday night against the Steelers. Luckily, they did get the win. Great for Cleveland. What a game that was. I'm excited for Jameis. I have no ill will towards Jameis Winston. I wish him nothing but success. He's a lot of fun. His teammates all love him. I didn't wish him, team success when he was with New Orleans, but personal success. Of course, I'll always kind of root for him. He's a great dude. He really, truly is. So, all right. Prediction time. I'm going to start things off with my predictive player of the game, and I'm going Antoine Winfield Jr. There were lots of questions during the bye week about Antoine's play so far. Lots of criticism about his missed tackles, how he has very few splash plays this season. He's not playing the way that 2023 Antoine Winfield Jr. has been playing. I talked about it a lot on this show that a lot of that has to do with his responsibilities in the defense changing compared to last year, that there are some holes that he's having to cover up for. I think this week, Antoine is going to be on a mission and is going to be out to make a statement. This week against the Giants, Antoine Winfield Jr. returns, and he's going to finish with at least one sack and at least one takeaway. Don't be surprised if he's got more in either or both of those categories. My bold prediction in this one is Mike Evans gets over 100 yards receiving, but Sterling Shepard gets all the love. A lot of the focus is going to go Mike's way. He's going to win a lot of his battles, but Sterling Shepard is going to be heavily involved in this one as he returns to New York. We know that Shepard is Baker's dude. The whole reason that Sterling Shepard is on this team is because Baker said, come join us, keep your career alive. You know you can still play. I want you, let's do this thing. So Mike Evans is going to win his opportunities, but when the Bucs get into the red zone, Evans is going to be covered like crazy by multiple players because the Giants are going to say, no, Evans is not scoring a touchdown for you. You got to beat us with someone else, and Shep is going to take advantage. We are going to see Sterling Shepard's first 2-touchdown game ever. That's right. I went through game by game of Sterling Shepard's career. He has never had a multi-receiving touchdown game in his career. He gets it this week in his revenge game against the New York Giants. And then finally, my score prediction in this one. Look, talked about whether or not Tristan Wirfs is going to play. Bull said he's a game time decision. I don't think it matters. With Tristan or without Tristan, the Bucs are far and away the superior team on the field on Sunday. They are going to be re-energized by Mike Evans coming back. They are going to be re-energized by the return of Mike Edwards, the return of Jamel Dean. Zyon McCollum is going to be on the field. This team is set to make a run. I've been saying it for weeks. I'm going to continue to say it. I still believe that the Bucs are a playoff team, and now with the division in sights, it's going to take a run like last year, and it starts this week. The Bucs are going to dominate from the jump. I'm taking the Bucs to win this one 34-13. That's my largest margin of victory prediction this season. It's probably going to be my largest margin of victory prediction for the rest of the season. The Bucs are going to blow the doors off of the New York Giants. I'm going to jump into the chat and see what you guys are predicting. We got George saying Bucs win at 37-19. We got Lakita 31-17 Bucs. And let's see, we got Gustavo says, I'm repping for us here. I'm a fan and I live in Jersey. If we lose, I'm going to put on a paper bag. What message should I send to Bowles? I mean, I think the paper bag would be message enough if we're being honest, but represent for Bucs Nation out there in Jersey. Love that, Gustavo. We got Narav, 31-9 Bucs. Bold prediction, Bucs get 2 interceptions. We got Scotty J, picking a little bit closer of a game. I don't hate it though. Bucs 27, Giants 21. Richard says the defense gets 7 sacks. We got Cal saying Bucs by 24. Bry says 38-9. 4 touchdowns and a field goal. Defense gets one of them with a turnover and 5 sacks. I love that. He did correct himself. He says 5 touchdowns. Richard, I can't put yours up on the screen. You gotta keep it family friendly. Let's see. We have Scotty J says, James, that is hilarious. I had Shepard with 85 yards and a touchdown. I hope he gets 2. We got R.S. Taylor saying the defense gets 2 touchdowns. I love that. And you know what? I'm going to close it out with this. The thing that I also love is, look, that bye week was rough. It was rough for you guys. It was rough for me. It was rough for the players. It was rough for everyone because the Bucs have lost 4 games in a row. They lost their top 2 receivers 5 weeks ago. You got one of them coming back now. But that was rough. There were a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, a lot of fire Todd Bowles talk. But now, starting to come back around. Everybody's confident that the Bucs are going to be able to win this game. The Bucs are confident, or the fans are confident in the Bucs' ability to get some big wins down the stretch and make a push towards the playoffs. This has been a really solid team this year. The defense has struggled, but the offense has made up for it. Now is the time when they're able to start to get hot. And I've said it every year that I've done this podcast. David Harrison used to say it when he was on the show. It's not always the best team that wins the Super Bowl. It's the team that's playing the best. And if the Bucs are going to be playing their best, it's going to be because they go on an absolute heater the rest of the season. It starts Sunday against the New York Giants. That's going to do it for this live preview episode of Locked On Bucs. Please check out everything going on over at the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @Yarcho_Bucs. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. You get to text one-on-one with me. Lots of game updates on, for the insiders. I'm constantly texting during the game. You don't want to miss out on that. No ads, anything crazy like that. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider. And of course, make sure that you follow along on YouTube with those notifications turned on so you know when I go live after the game Sunday. And make sure you're following on your favorite podcast platform. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.